February marks Black History Month, which is generally held as a time to reflect on the notable contributions of African Americans in our country. Of course, many of their legacies have been suppressed by the cloud of racism and white supremacy that has historically marked our society. Typically, these reflections uncover key figures from the civil rights movement and even those that preceded them in the long journey towards America's highest ideals. But for this year, I want to push us beyond that. I want to push beyond America even. I want you to understand that Black history is church history. Certainly, we've heard about the role that churches and pastors held in the civil rights movement, and even in abolitionist efforts prior to that. Maybe you've even heard of the cultural influence on Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the infamous German pastor, who acknowledged the incredible effect that time spent in Black Harlem churches held in shaping his theology. Of course, that ultimately led to his decision to return to Germany and stand against the Nazi regime. We've heard about that, but still, I want us to push beyond recent influence and look all the way back to the legacy of the church fathers. If you don't know, following the ministry of the apostles and even the work of Paul, the early church continued to be led and shaped by brilliant leaders and theological minds who continued the gospel work. They are known as church fathers, and many of them were of direct African descent, Black people. Names like Tertullian, Origen, Augustine of Hippo, and many others wrestled with doctrine and church structure and even cultural application to establish much of what shapes our faith tradition today. Doctrinal anchors like the Trinity and exegetical tools such as textual criticism, even gospel consistency between the Old Testament and New Testament can be traced back through history to the work of these fathers who happen to be Black. Now, why is this important? Well, to be honest, it probably wouldn't matter if there wasn't such a concerted effort to distance their work from their actual racial heritage. Because of the languages they spoke, many historians simply categorize them as simply Greek or Latin fathers. But even more so, European artists would simply depict them as white. Because in recounting church history, they could not choose between crediting a race that they saw as inferior and completely ignoring the obvious significance of their contributions. So they just painted them white. In other words, can't erase what they've done, so we'll just change who they are. Listen, this suppression is a huge deal because even now there are many African Americans who reject the Christian faith along the lines of color. They view Christianity as a white man's religion, and they struggle to accept a faith that they have come to believe was only passed to their ancestors from the guilty hands of their slave-holding oppressors, which of course is simply not the case at all. And listen, I'm thinking somebody should tell the truth, right? So for the next few weeks, that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna highlight a few of these church fathers and explore their unique contribution to the faith. Tertullian, Origen, Athanasius of Alexandria, Augustine of Hippo, and so many others, all Black church fathers who remind us as we pay close attention to the truth of our past that Black history is church history.